Hello everyone. Let's wait for Kadambini to join. Hi Kadambini.
Hi,
How
hi,
are
hi.
you?
Good. Hang on. Let's just try and put this in a
Uh-huh.
place where it won't fall off. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
so
is it.
welcome to Turning Point.
Thank you.
So today we are going live with Kadambini Devarakonda. She's the co-founder of Meera Bharadwaj. Meera Bharadwaj is a maternity and a breastfeeding clothing brand that offers women freedom to feed. It was launched in December 2019 when Meera, Kadambani's daughter, was 1 year old. And Kadambani holds a master's in social work degree. She's a certified professional coach and is also the founder of Inner Freedom Coaching, where she offers one-on-one coaching for on one-on-one coaching and personal growth groups for Indian women in US.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely intro. I mean, there's so much in this one intro. You have
Yeah,
Meera
too much.
Bharadwaj, you're a life coach, you have your own, you're also the founder of Inner Freedom Coaching. Like, it's so much. Uh, so let's start with
Yeah.
what motivated you to start Meera Bharadwaj.
I was wondering if Madhuri, we could probably also just spend like a brief minute talking about why you're doing
Oh, sure.
what you're doing, and I'm so happy to be probably maybe the first person that you're interviewing through Turning Point. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you are
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
person, so I'm
yeah,
glad, and I'm very thankful to you for giving me this opportunity. Because I think anybody, it takes some courage for anyone to give that first helping hand, or give that opportunity for the other person to grow. So I will definitely remember this forever. The motive behind Turning Point, so as I said, since I was a girl, I was a woman. I'm a woman. uh, I'm a mother of two, and throughout this process of birthing, giving birth to two kids, and then the postpartum depression, or even prior to getting married, we undergo a lot of low moments. Whenever I
yeah,
was low, I felt if I had a helping hand, it would have been better. Maybe if I had
yeah,
awareness, or a right person who could guide
yeah,
me and give a
yeah,
direction. I think always I miss that in my life at some point of
yeah,
time, and
yeah,
that's when it struck me. Okay, why don't I start something like that? Because I underwent this emotional, low moments or
yeah,
the tides up and down. So
yeah,
that was a
yeah,
base point to start the turning point. Uh, but upon that, as I said, as I mentioned in my first video, I'm not confined only to the women issues or the kids or the parenting issues. I
yeah,
just wanted, to gather all the inspirational stories. It could be anything, just like you might have started it. I remember you telling me you started with 1,000 followers on Insta initially, but I think
yeah,
in a span of like 1 or 2 years, it grew so big. So
yeah,
stories like that. I'm looking for stories
right,
like that which could inspire the
right,
people
yeah,
there. There are so
yeah,
many people who are stuck out there because of no
yeah,
encouragement or no
right,
proper guidance, or
yeah,
no freedom for them to no opportunity for them to go out and do something. So
yeah,
a collection of something like a
yeah,
fairy tale, I would
inspiring
say, a
stories.
lot of
Yeah,
inspirational
yeah,
tales together on
yeah,
one
yeah,
platform. So
yeah,
my vision is that my page or my this initiative should be a platform where somewhere anybody who is low, if they check my page, they should have any story that they can relate to.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really a great initiative, and I trust that many women will benefit from this.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
really happy to kind of be one of the first people who will be, speaking on your.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Uh, I think a lot of people from your list have joined. Do you want to say hi to them before we start?
Hi everyone. Hello. Yeah, I see there are quite a few people here, and yeah, it's always exciting to be here and to talk about Meera Bharadwaj and how it happened. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So do you want to start talking
yeah,
about how you started Meera Bharadwaj? I'm all
yeah.
ears.
So yeah, I think your question was what motivated me to start Meera Bharadwaj. Um, so I think the larger vision around all the work that we do at Meera Bharadwaj is is to help women uh, have the freedom to feed. Is to normalize breastfeeding in public,
Yeah,
uh, and this vision kind of this is what So, if we make nursing wear, that's, one level of the work that we do. But the deeper inspiration behind that is to support a greater transformation in society, right? Which
yeah,
is around normalizing breastfeeding in public. And for this to happen, we essentially need two things. One is we need comfortable nursing wear that helps women feed wherever that they need to with complete privacy. And surprisingly, we don't have, many of those in the Indian market. I mean, I can, probably say with certainty that besides what we do, there aren't any other brands that are designing clothes that really have the needs of the
yeah,
breastfeeding mom at the center of the design, right?
yeah,
The
yeah.
um, the dress caters to just accessing your breast so that the baby can drink, but it doesn't cater to the need for comfort and privacy for the mom.
Yeah.
The zips are all in the wrong
I
place, and
know.
and the buttons don't help.
I'm a witness to that. I
Yeah,
faced
so
that with
fine,
both
right?
my
So
kids. And those
so many.
90s. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, and the 90s. So one thing that we need is designs that support that, and the other thing that we need, which is the more challenging thing, is for a mindset shift to happen, right?
yeah,
The mindset that it's normal to breastfeed. It's normal to breastfeed in front of others, and it's normal because this is what we have breasts for. In our society, we've been conditioned, and we are constantly receiving messages, around the purpose of breasts being for sex and sexuality. But we don't see enough examples out there where the breasts are being used for the other primary purpose for which they're created, right? Which is
yeah,
to nurture our babies, nurture our infants. And without that, the shame that we carry as a society around breastfeeding is going to continue,
yeah.
right? And if we have to overcome this, then we need more and more women, being I don't know, I want to say like being brave, but I don't even know if it's brave, but it's really just accepting
Yeah.
that this is normal and
Acceptance. Yeah,
natural, normal and natural, and to just go ahead and breastfeed wherever it is that they need to. And, often this term, nursing in public comes with the connotation that you're probably like sitting at a restaurant or a coffee shop or feeding, but it can be as simple as getting out of your own bedroom and nursing in front of your family at the dining table or at the sofa. But so many of us hesitate to even do this because of the embarrassment we carry around breastfeeding.
yeah,
And this comes from my own experience, right? So it took me a while to kind of get out of my own bedroom, and I had strong postpartum blues after my delivery, and I would often feel sad and I'll feel alone. And with this new responsibility of a life on your hands, it's always a really hard phase to go through, right? But even though I had family who was very supportive around me, I had kind of confined myself to the room because I was kind of,
figuring.
one, I was figuring out how this thing works, and, then you are not trying to cover yourself up all the time while you're doing it. And two, because there is some sense of awkwardness associated with feeding in front of, especially your male family members, like a
Yeah,
father or a brother, right? So it took me a while to kind of get over my own inhibitions. And once I had kind of gotten out of the bedroom and gotten comfortable, other people around me also started getting like, okay, this is what she does now, and
Yeah,
this is what
yeah, yeah.
she does all day. She breastfeeds all day, for days together, for weeks together. So let us all get comfortable with it, right? So it's that one mental leap that we need to make as individuals, as families, and then as a society, right? And for
Yeah,
that to happen at the societal level, we need to see more and more and more women do this,
yeah,
right? And what we do as a brand is really just offering one solution, right? We
yeah,
offer one solution that will work for for the cause of giving women the freedom to feed wherever it is that they need to. And I mean, we women breastfeed for a minimum of 6 months, if not a year or longer than that, and that's a big part of our life, right?
yeah,
and
yeah, true.
and such a big part of our life, if we were to feel limited, which we so many of us do, limited around what's possible for us, it would be such a loss, right?
Yeah,
When we can actually still continue to fully participate in our everyday lives. And that could be as simple as going to a bank,
yeah,
going to a grocery store. And this is not in COVID times, of course. COVID times are different, um, but otherwise, normal life doesn't have to stop just because we are breastfeeding, right?
true,
And
true.
uh, and so the motivation to start Meera Bharadwaj is all of this. It's my personal experience and all of this thinking that women really really need to have options. If they choose to, they need to have options where they can freely feed their babies wherever they are. If they're traveling, it could be a flight, it could be a car, it could be a train, it could be going out for a walk, it could be going to a temple,
Hmm.
it could be going to a coffee shop, it could be going to a relative's house, a friend's house, wherever. This is all part of our normal life. And we need to have options where we can feed fully discreetly, with complete comfort, wherever it is that we need to. And there's no need to feel ashamed, you know, about it. So that's the motivation behind the work,
No,
that
that
we
that's
do.
that's a great reason to start, or great motivation behind starting with Meera Bharadwaj, because I can totally relate to whatever is associated with your story, like feeding in front of your family members. I could never
Yeah,
do that, because of,
yeah,
I think it's all incorporated in our
yeah.
grandmoms or the ancestors
Psyche.
generation a lot,
Absolutely.
because my grandmom,
Absolutely.
she never let me open
Yeah.
the door while I was feeding.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and they gave me those typical nighties, as you said, those zippers. Like, I cannot wear nighties while traveling, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
I mean,
absolutely.
wish this initiative was started, back then in 2011 or
Yeah.
2012 when I gave birth to Triti.
It
But
had to happen to me before, the idea could come forth.
true, true, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I think anybody, any woman out there who's in this stage definitely can relate to what you're saying. But in this process, did you face any criticisms or negative
Yeah.
comments that came in your way, and how did you handle that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
along with the postpartum blues. If somebody
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
passes a negative comment, I know that the impact will be even higher.
It actually even was. Yeah, so I see my initial journey of breastfeeding. Meera was in the US. Meera was born in the US, and so I wouldn't say that I received criticism,
Mhm.
especially in the US. It was actually fairly comfortable. Often I would go out and I would breastfeed, and nobody would really bother to look at me again. There's sometimes, people would even look and say, "Congratulations," because they kind of assume you have a, newborn and you're breastfeeding. So it was more or less a sweet experience of breastfeeding in public in the US. But I still had to constantly keep overcoming my own kind of some kind of holding back around it, like that it's okay, this is fine, it's normal, it's fine, it's, nobody's looking, it's fine. So it took me a while to kind of get there, especially when it comes to feeding in front of people, like your close friends. You visit somebody's house and it is your friend's husband that you're feeding in front of, right? So those are the slightly more uncomfortable places that that I came up against, and that I had to get over. Now, switch to India. When I was trying to do the same thing in US, I'd kind of gotten very comfortable with doing this. But when I was in India and I was trying to do the same thing, I often came up with a lot more staring and a lot more inappropriate looks, lot more intrusive kind of looks from people. And I also had, I can't remember exactly, but I'm sure I remember having people come up to me and say, ఎందుకమ్మా ఇంట్లో పాలు ఇవ్వచ్చు కదా, like, why you have to sit here and do దిష్టి తగులుతుంది. That's another thing that they say in Telugu. Nazar lag jayegi. Or you will get a cold if you sit outside a nurse. And there's so many of these things, and it's driven by culturally the shame that we associate with this process. So I felt even more like I felt like I'd taken a step back when I was breastfeeding in India rather than when I was breastfeeding in the US, because I had started becoming more conscious of the stares I was getting and the comments that I was getting. And therefore I was like, do I really need to, now have that nursing cover around me, which makes it even more obvious that, I'm doing something there that needs to be hidden, often I would actually go, even if we go out, I would go back to the car and sit in the car in the dark and breastfeed, and then go out after I'm done. And the other thing, again, I wouldn't say that it was like a negative comment or something, but it's subtle, like these things are not so much why are you doing it, but it's more around people leaving. Someone comes to visit and then you are breastfeeding. They actually expect you to go inside the room and breastfeed so that they can continue their conversations.
Yes.
But if you are continuing to sit there and breastfeed, okay, then we will leave now. We'll come back again later. These subtle messages around how it's not okay what you're doing, or it makes people very uncomfortable. Even if it's not like it's not okay, but it's like I'm very uncomfortable and I'm leaving, right?
Yeah.
So I faced a lot of that, and that made that's kind of like the point that made me want to come up with a design that would make it easier. If not, the design itself won't eliminate the cultural connotations we associate with it, but at least make it easier for women to do it, right? So yeah.
So when you got this idea, like, whom did you share this idea first, and who is supporting you throughout this journey of Meera Bharadwaj?
So the business is run by me and my mother-in-law. Her name is Sita. So we're business partners, and it's the both of us who. So when I was in India, I was living with my parents-in-law, and the initial ideation around, no, we need to have something like this. It's unbelievable that a design like this is unavailable, happened initially with her. And with her specifically because she, besides a lot of other things, she's exceptionally good with tailoring. And cutting and stitching and material quality, and how do you put things together, what will work, this kind of, that's her forte. And she's been the person who's like stitched the most like beautiful frocks for Meera, and so that's her area of interest and that's her strength. So the initial conversations kind of started out with her, and she also got incredibly involved and excited about, why don't we put something together for you? So we started with putting dresses together for me that would help me do this. And we were kind of also modeling our ideas around many of the dresses available in the West, that cater to a requirement like this. So so we started picking up material at home and telling kind of putting down our idea around what the design is and going to a local tailor and getting it staged and wearing it and using it, and kind of like that iterative process. So she's been with me on this journey since that time, since the very beginning. And once I came back to the US, she's the one who's kind of has been on, she's like her head of operations. She's taken care of, ensuring that this design, we are able to mass produce it now. And by mass produce, a day from a tailor. I see that your video is paused, so I'll also pause for a second.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I lost you there for a second. Yeah. So my mom-in-law Sita has been the one who's been running our operations on ground, and she's really good at it. So she's the greatest. It's not possible for me to do this sitting here in the US alone, right?
Yeah,
so she takes care of material procurement. She takes care of our the stitching process, and she takes care of all the shippings, which is like a big chunk of all.
There's a lot of work involved there.
She's an incredibly capable woman, and I'm super glad that we are working together. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Since this show is about like turning point, so what is your turning point in what is the turning point in your life? Like it could be any incident or any idea that struck your mind. So what was that changed your career or you as an individual? What is your turning point?
Yeah. So, I've been thinking about it since you kind of, shared that this is what the conversation is going to be about. It's hard for me, honestly, to kind of put down one incident or one one thing that was the turning point. But I think overall, if I had to look at it, right, my turning point or my, I've kind of narrowed down my passion towards women's empowerment, right? Like the work that we do at Meera Bharadwaj, the heart of it is women's empowerment, right? Like a lot of it over the last year and a half has been about actually putting this design out there. But moving forward, we want to be able to do more around also like women's mental health, maternal mental health, postpartum mental health, all of this stuff, get experts to come and talk, do lives with us. And so create a larger container around in which we are supporting women. But my own turning point, I think, was in realizing just how much work that needs to happen with respect to women's empowerment. Right. So, and that too comes from looking at my own life. Like I'm someone who's fairly well educated, has decent amount of exposure in life. And even despite that, there are so many places where when I reflect, I see I'm holding myself back, and I have these cultural messages and this conditioning which says that I can't do something or I won't be good at it, or like so many things that are not necessarily active voices in your head, but more your subconscious that kind of waits for the decision to be made by somebody else, etc. So my turning point was realizing that women of our generation are really on like this wonderful cusp where we're so much more aware, we have so much more exposure. We have so much, we are educated and we have access to knowledge and information and resources, all of which will help us be the best person, that we can be. And at the same time, we also are sitting with generational, like you said earlier, right? Like grandmothers and mothers, we're sitting with stories of, with generations of stories around who women are, who women should be, what roles they should play, how they should be. Like they should be submissive and they should be passive and they should be nurturing and caring. And, all of these things are also in our DNA.
Yeah.
That often, kind of they come up, in the various roles that we're playing in our life, and it's like, a- and there is so much potential for us to grow, right? And there's so much potential for us to come even more fully into our own power as women. And when I look at myself being on that cusp, I know that I need support.
Yeah,
I know that I need help from other women who've walked on this path ahead of me to kind of take me there, you
yeah.
know. And so my turning point was seeing that this is the work that I want to do.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I focus on even in my coaching practice, which I've been doing so much less of since Meera Bharadwaj has, taken off.
Well,
But
yeah.
so the core work that I do there, as well as what I offer here, is really that empowerment of women. Um, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, uh, there's so much. I mean, so apart from Meera Bharadwaj, I know that you're a life coach. So how did you get into it? Like, what was the reason behind you taking up master's in social work degree, or like how did you start the inner freedom coaching?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a reason then,
So,
or is it just like, just like everybody else, you just started doing it? Or I know the motive is like, as you said, your turning point is you always envisioned women empowerment since
yeah.
you were
Yeah.
exposed
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think I was always, I would probably say it's my personality or my conditioning with, say, my parents, that I was always kind of oriented towards helping other people.
Mm.
And even when I was really young, when I was going to probably like school or like college, I would often like give my lunchbox away to someone someone that I thought needed food. Simple things like that that may not really be very impactful at the larger scale, but it's just like an indication of how your heart feels about it,
A
right?
nice gesture.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of always oriented in that direction, and that's how I slowly, not always very consciously, but moved in the direction of studying social work. And a good part of my early career was in nonprofit organizations. Um, and when it comes to how I moved into coaching as a field, um, I think personally, I got more interested in what I'd say is like, so so a lot of work that I did earlier was around poverty and development programs and government policy and impacting government policy, this kind of stuff. But I kind of was constantly more interested around what's happening in my own mind, that's stopping me from, even with a lot of freedom, that's
Yeah.
stopping me from what I would say, like doing the best that I could do. What is the conditioning or the habitual patterns that I tend to fall into that uh, that actually don't really work for me. Uh,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
so uh, so it kind of my interest kind of got even more narrowed down into case work, which is like one-on-one work rather than group social work, right? And that's how I kind of, again, not very consciously, but got exposed to the field of coaching through the work that I was doing.
Okay.
And then ended up doing a coach training program and getting certified. And then so once I got into it, then it was like a ball that just kept
Rolling.
rolling,
Oh,
and when I moved to US, I think, or maybe a little bit earlier, is when I started inner freedom coaching and doing one-on-one work um, with um, with people, I would say, and then slowly again narrowed it down with one-on-one work with women.
so when you were doing that, could you relate to a lot of stories out there? Were
Yeah.
there so many stories like us? Like, I think
Yeah.
I remember discussing with you when we were on the call. We were
Yeah.
talking about financial independence. We were talking about
Yeah.
postpartum depression. For me,
Yeah.
I personally, when Dhriti was born, my
Yeah.
first one was born, I really didn't
Yeah.
know. Maybe I knew the term postpartum depression, but I really didn't know that I was experiencing that. I was too
Right.
busy
Yeah.
to even realize that there's something
Yeah.
called postpartum depression. But
Right.
now, over the
Yeah.
period when I analyze my life back, I know that I was
Yeah.
in depression, probably, I needed helping
Yeah.
hand then. So, how did
Right.
you overcome these
Yeah.
issues, like in your
Yeah.
phase of Mira in your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. 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 Um, so I've had I think I want to start with saying that it's really surprising, even with so much wonderful work happening out there, how little awareness we have about mental
Yeah,
health.
true.
Especially in India, mental health, especially women's mental health on the whole, obviously, but especially women's mental health is considered you're feeling bad.
Yeah,
It's like you're feeling bad, get over it,
yeah,
and then distract yourself, be happy that you have a child. There's nothing for you, nothing more you need in your life now that you have a child, right? All these kind of messaging. And it's uh, uh, there is really a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of bringing to people's awareness that things like postpartum depression, postpartum blues, postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety are very, very real, and they are a direct result of the hormonal changes and the life changes that we're going through
true.
as women. And yes, definitely, like as you said, my own experience of even before I'd given birth to Mira, I had a phase in life where I struggled with anxiety, and then a little bit with depression. And that was with respect to some incident that had happened, and I had taken on some postpartum PTSD. It's, stress with respect to that. And reflecting back, I felt like I got a lot of help from family, but nobody still understood what I was going
Yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah,
So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Like continued feelings of anxiety after a traumatic event that occurs to you. And went and saw multiple doctors in India, many of whom recommended anxiety medication, recommended maybe even antidepressants and sleep medication, but none of it was ultimately diagnosed as PTSD. And like, this is exactly what you do if you are experiencing PTSD, right? Like, this is
yeah,
what works
yeah,
best for that. So I was coaching folks even before this happened to me, but after this, I realized, oh my God, there is like this whole world of mental health out
yeah,
there that I hadn't even skimmed the surface of understanding until it happened to me at that level.
yeah, yeah,
Until then, my work was still, oriented towards helping people change pattern behaviors and stuff like that. But deeper traumas such as this, and the struggles that people experience around anxiety and depression they're very challenging,
yeah,
and people need the right support, trained support,
yeah,
to help them get out of this. And even family understanding and support can go a very, very, very long way.
yeah,
At least you won't be giving wrong messages like it's just a phase, you will get over it and
yeah,
stuff like that, right?
yeah,
So I'm just trying to remember your initial question, which is that yes. So yeah, my own experience with this has definitely informed some of the work I do. I deeply relate with the women that I work with, and that's kind of one of the reasons I focus more on women, more because my empathy for them goes much more deeper. It's much more authentic because of my own personal experiences, right? So. I really relate with the struggles women are facing, especially in COVID times, like
yeah,
especially
yeah,
in when we have so many, like this added responsibility of the sole responsibility of home. We don't have, helpers that we used to have before anymore, right? We don't have like a house help. We don't have childcare. So the added burden of all these things, and especially women end up taking on more of them. That's
Yeah.
again part of cultural conditioning, and that it's something that you can't let go of. Maybe like no, it has to be perfect. Dosa has to come out like this. Like I'm joking about it, but at the end of the day, women end up taking a bigger share of the responsibilities at home, and it's been incredibly challenging. Not just like the anxiety around, are we going to survive this, are our loved ones going to survive this, is so alive. Added to that, there is like us just carrying the anxiety into how are we going to manage life like this for
Yeah.
another year,
Yeah.
another year of homeschooling our children, another year of no help, another year of wondering if we are going to catch the virus if we step out of our homes. So
Yeah. Yeah.
mental health is like
It's on a
a
broader perspective.
big
Yeah.
challenge
Big
at
challenge.
this point in time. And also thankfully there are like multiple people coming up and sharing resources with respect to free services in across cities in India, that and kind of like really want to get touch bring this back into to the women who are going through the postpartum depression or anxiety right now, right? Um, Added to the hormonal changes, there is the world falling apart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a more complex situation. It's really hard to be there, and the most important thing is to get help.
Yeah.
Some of these like these depression and anxiety are things that you can't help yourself with, irrespective of how resourceful you were as a person before,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
the nature of the condition.
Yeah.
And therefore it's incredibly important that we reach out and get help, wherever it is that we can, to take better care of ourselves.
Uh, so, adding to that, do you think that, trying to keep ourselves busy when you're facing such issues might help you to some extent?
It depends, if busyness is a cover up on not addressing something, it definitely doesn't help. It may help temporarily,
Hmm.
distract. It may help temporarily with distracting yourself from the thoughts around the thoughts that are coming up, the anxious
Yeah.
thoughts that are coming up. But the thoughts will come up the moment you let, your mind rests from the other things that
Yes.
you're doing, right? So
Yes.
it's a coping mechanism that most of us use, and it's natural. It's not like you don't have to, like find things to be busy about. It's easy to find things to be busy about, right? But it's an effective coping mechanism, but it's not really helpful. On the other hand, I would also say that when you are struggling with anxiety and anxious thoughts, sometimes it can actually help to not ponder over it a lot, right? Getting help is part of what you need to do anyway. But even despite that, or with the support of that, what drives anxiety is repetitive thinking about things that you cannot control, and
Yeah.
thinking in ways that is not supportive, right? So it does help when you're able to take your mind off of it completely, because what you're thinking is actually not
Not.
useful.
Yeah.
It's
True.
not
True.
helpful, right?
True.
It's not actually helping you rest your mind fully. It's not addressing the fundamental
Issue.
fear issue that's
Yeah.
coming up to me, right? So in that sense, distraction can be a very useful tool when you have found the right solution, right? You're already following the right solution, but no problem will get solved overnight, especially something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
anxiety doesn't get solved overnight. So in this in-between time, if there are things that will, it's healthy, therefore, for you to take your attention and put it elsewhere where it is more constructive, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, do you suggest women who are in this phase, do you suggest them to seek some help, like
Yeah.
seek a coach, go
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
coaching classes or something like that?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
advisable?
For sure. See, some of the mental challenges we experience, there are different levels. So coaching will function as long as the challenge is with respect to a problem that you're unable to solve, and therefore it is driving your anxiety. And coaching as a process may help you think through it clearly enough, create enough space in your mind for you to be able to see what you're doing clearly, what you shouldn't be doing, what you want to change, and then take the necessary steps that that are needed. But coaching will not help when we are talking about serious anxiety and depression. Sometimes you need to see a psychiatrist, right? The one who
Yeah.
can offer you some medication
Yeah.
to help you with the initial process, along with psychotherapy or counseling that will also help you emotionally with it. So the answer is absolutely yes. Getting help is essential, and do not
Yeah.
delay.
Yeah.
And do not delay. There is absolutely no need for you to feel ashamed about it, or it's often like, I remember, it's easy for me to say now, but I remember when I was going through it, my biggest thing was, why me? Why is
Yeah.
this happening to me? I am a life coach. Why is this happening to me? So there is that denial we experience when that we do when we start experiencing mental health issues.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not often talked about. We don't have the similar denial when we have stomach ache or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so natural for us to get help from a doctor for that, but for mental health it's not,
Yeah.
and it really needs to be. That we
Yeah.
need to get help, and help can happen in different ways at different levels, and it's important to kind of do some research, or if you are not in that position, get someone you trust,
Yeah.
or someone you can rely on to do that research for you, to figure out what's the best way of getting help for you at that where you are at.
Yeah, true, true. I totally agree with it. I think a lot of people, now, well, a couple of my friends who have seen a therapist or a psychiatrist, I think it is not accepted in the society as it is. Like when the moment
Absolutely.
you go, you see a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
you're termed as like వాడికి పిచ్చిరా వాడికి ఏదో రోగం ఉందిరా.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so how do we get
Yeah.
over all this? Is it like, the way you started, Meera Bharadwaj, like freedom to feel, is it like,
Yeah.
just do it and let the society
Yeah.
accept the way it is?
It is complex. I totally understand what you're saying. It's not as easy to do it as it is to say it, because at the end of the day, we do rely on being accepted by the people we love, or our relatives and things like this. It's just so inherent to being human that we look to, like, we want to be seen as someone who is acceptable in society, and somehow mental health issues are, they're so less understood, that there's a lot of what's the word for it? A lot of judgment, and there's a lot of looking down upon people who have any sort of mental health issues, right? So
Yeah.
so the way to go about it, I wish every person who's having a mental health issue had one friend who was like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what anybody thinks, I will support you. Because
Support you.
sometimes
Yeah.
that's the kind of support you need at that point in time. You are unable to make the decision for yourself. But if you're in that place and you're hearing this, please know that reach out for any help.
Yeah.
Even with a friends group,
Yeah.
nobody may be your best friend there, but reach out and say, I'm going through something and I need some help with it. Yes, there may be some judgment that might happen in this process, and you may be wary of that, but the benefit you will get out of it is much, 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 much more than the few people who will be judging you for it,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, when you are feeling fully well, it doesn't even matter,
True. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Auntie has joined.
Yeah.
Hi, Auntie.
Yeah, that's Sita Dot Mahalakshmi is one
Yeah, good
mother-in-law.
debate. It's a discussion,
Good
Auntie.
debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've covered whatever I wanted in this show for now, and I don't
Yeah,
want I want to hold you up for long. One
yeah,
last question: are you planning to
yeah.
expand Meera Bharadwaj even beyond the current stage? Like,
Uh,
opening
as
like a
in,
lot of branches or something like that.
you know, I think we don't, I don't think of it in terms of numbers like that, in
Yeah,
terms of like opening more branches and all, but we definitely want to reach out to so many more women, in
yeah,
India and like be like a household name.
yeah,
So that women really get the opportunity to try what we are doing out and see for themselves, the um, see for themselves what it gives, uh,
yeah,
right? And I think where I really do want to expand this year is like besides like more designs and like adding more dresses and all of that stuff. uh, uh, it would be very meaningful to me to bring in experts on board to offer great insight into mental health, especially women's mental health, as an ongoing educational experience for all the women who follow us,
yeah.
right? We want to keep putting out meaningful content out there besides making the dresses that we make.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's so great to hear the journey of Meera Bharadwaj today. All the nursing moms, please
Yeah.
feel free to reach out to Kadambini Devarakonda in case if you're breastfeeding. Freedom to feed.
Yeah. Freedom
Yeah,
to feel.
yeah. Thank you, Kadambini, for your valuable time. It means
Yeah.
a lot for giving me this opportunity because this is my first live.
Oh, I mean, you're like this, man. What you're doing is awesome, and we all start somewhere,
Yeah.
and your work is going to be so useful to so many of the women that will start following you and start, getting inspiration from so many of the other women out there who've had it hard at some point, and who've learned and now are in a place where they can share, a few
Yeah.
pieces of learning, right? So it's like you pass it on, you pass the goodness, pass
True,
it on.
true.
That's
I
what you're doing. Your own story of empowerment
Yeah.
is, I know very well that the confidence that comes when you have gone through,
True.
your
Yeah.
own journey is very
Yeah.
different from a fake sort of confidence that you can, kind of
Put up on the
try
face.
and
Yeah.
come and put up on the face, right? So thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you for the opportunity for even, asking me to come and share some of my thoughts with you.
No, that's my privilege for sure. And I hope so. Like, as I said, I hope this vision grows big and, goodness
Yeah,
spreads throughout. Thank you
for
so
sure.
much. And all the viewers, please reach out to Kadambini Devarakonda in case if you are breastfeeding. So there's a lot of good stuff there. And
For
yeah,
sure.
stay
Yeah.
tuned. Thank you.
Yeah.
Signing off.
Madhuri will be doing lots of wonderful interviews.
Yeah, there's something coming up soon. So,
Yay. Exciting.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Madhuri.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Thanks also to all of the folks that joined us and stayed for a while, and the ones who are still here now. And I'm guessing the live will be available on your page, right? If folks
Yeah,
wanted
it
to.
will be available on my page and you can share it. Yeah, later.
I
Yeah.
will. Thank you.
And thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.